Okay, so something I hear a lot is, I wish I'd started earlier. And although it's true there are a bunch of fields where it makes sense to start and specialize early, there are a lot more areas where generalizing rather than specializing will prime you for the biggest success. That's the key lesson I took from reading a book called Range by David Epstein, which has quickly become one of my favorite books of all time. And so in this video, we're going to talk about why it pays to be a generalist rather than a specialist, what Alan Moore has in common with Roger Federer, how an experiment that started with levitating frogs ended in the production of one of the most valuable materials on the planet, and why, whatever you've been doing so far, you probably already have a bunch of skills and experiences you can draw on to create a meaningful, rewarding life. Okay, so first, when does it pay to specialize? So if you're interested in self-improvement, you've probably already heard about the so-called 10,000 hour rule, which suggests that it's important to get started on whatever you want to master early and do it as much as you can. The thing is, that might be true for fields of expertise when the rules dictating success are really clearly established and never change, like chess, tennis, violin, piano. But a key point that Epstein makes is that most fields aren't like that. In the book, Epstein makes a distinction between kind and wicked environments. In kind environments, the rules are clear, the information is always available to you, and feedback is always immediate and pretty much 100% accurate. In wicked environments, the rules are unclear, patterns aren't always obvious, and feedback is often delayed, inaccurate, or both. And so the point Epstein makes is that kind environments tend to be the ones that you see in sports or games, but the real world is wicked. It's complex and it's getting more complex all the time. And in a wicked world where we're constantly facing rapidly changing demands, what's important is to be able to draw on a wide range of creative experience to come up with creative solutions to problems. So for instance, people who are in favour of early specialisation often cite the example of Tiger Woods, who started playing golf when he was like 2, but a great counterexample to Tiger is Roger Federer, who dabbled in a whole bunch of sports including basketball, skiing and badminton before he settled on tennis. Federer didn't actually focus on tennis until he was a teenager, and so he credits the diverse range of sports he tried out with his athleticism and the hand-eye coordination he displays on the court today. Or you can look at classical music, where people really tend to encourage specialism early, and people feel like they've missed out if they didn't start the piano when they were 5 or whatever. But here Epstein points to world-renowned cellist Yo-Yo Ma, who actually tried out piano and violin before he turned to the instrument that would make him famous. And actually, in a study of British students, music psychologist John Sloboda found that those who specialised in one instrument early were often categorised as average musicians, whereas those who tried out 2 or 3 often became exceptional. So it doesn't always make sense to specialise early. But lesson 2 from the book is that having a diverse range of experiences can increase your chances of success, whatever field you're in. So to understand this, let's look at Alan Moore. Now, Alan Moore wrote Watchmen, which is widely considered to be one of the greatest comics of all time. It's a bit of art that's layered with political and philosophical questions, but that's not how Alan Moore began his career. He started out on a British comic called 2000 AD, writing Future Shocks, which are these super short, self-contained little sci-fi stories about everything from alien mind viruses to intergalactic cleaning crews. Crucially, Moore didn't even want to do these. I wanted a regular strip, he says. But I didn't get that. I was being offered short 4 or 5 page stories where everything had to be done in those 5 pages. And looking back, it was the best possible education that I could have had in how to construct a story. So Moore took all that condensed knowledge about storytelling and deconstructing old tropes, and then he used it to create some of the most iconic comics of our era. And that experience isn't uncommon, because as Epstein points out, when researchers looked at what made comic creators special, they hypothesized that the more comics a certain creator had published, the more successful they would actually be. But to the researchers' surprise, having published more comics or even having better resources wasn't what worked. What made creators successful was having a large breadth of experience in diverse comic genres. The more genres a creator worked in, the more successful they were likely to be. And this works in other fields too. When you compare Nobel Prize winning scientists to regular scientists, you find that Nobel laureates are 22 times more likely to have another interest of some kind, like being an amateur actor or playing a musical instrument. So one of my favourite examples from the book is physicist Andrew Geim, who used to play around with ideas that just kind of interested him in what he called FNEs, or Friday Night Experiments. This was stuff that wasn't anything to do with his regular work, but just something that he wanted to do for fun. So during one of those experiments, they managed to successfully levitate a frog with magnets. There's videos about that on YouTube if you want to understand how. But in another, he and his partner played around with removing flakes from a lump of bulk graphite with sticky tape. And by repeating the process again and again, they managed to create graphite fragments that were 1 atom thick, and create what's called graphene for the first time. And why didn't other scientists find graphene first? Epstein says it's probably because other experts have too narrow a focus. They spend years and careers on a narrow subject, and so when they come to look at a problem, they can only frame it in terms of their own subject. And then the final point the book makes is that it's never too late to try something new. As long as you're taking on interesting life challenges, you'll continue to upgrade your problem-solving toolkit, make new creative connections, and understand the world better. In a rapidly changing world like ours, it's really difficult to see what career opportunities are going to be lucrative. Look at the way AI-generated art and writing have changed the world in just the last few months. It's beginning to look like copywriters and illustrators might be in serious trouble in the next couple of years. And so with this in mind, it's beneficial to constantly broaden our horizons and try new things. And this is something I've really taken to heart with this YouTube channel. I am definitely not the best at anything I talk about. There are a ton of piano players that absolutely leave me in the dust, and there are black belts that would tap me out at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu without even breaking a sweat. I don't read the most books, and I don't lift the most weight. But by doing all of them together, I think I can see connections that people who might only do one or two of those things miss, and hopefully that allows me to deliver fresh perspectives on the world that hopefully if you've watched this far in the video, you think are actually valuable. And you're the same. Whoever you are, you've got a diverse range of life experiences and knowledge that nobody else on the planet has. And by continuing to gain new experiences and think about ways to connect those experiences together, there's the potential that you could create something really special. So if you take one thing away from this video, it's that you shouldn't ever feel like you're behind or that what you've been doing up till this point in your life has been a waste of time. Instead, try and remember that you never know which experience in your life is going to be crucial to your future success. So look at everything that you've done so far as part of that process and continue to learn and acquire new skills without thinking of any single one of them as the thing that's going to change your life. And if you're thinking about learning something new, then I really do advise that you deep dive into it rather than just experimenting about with it for a little bit. And in this video, I explain why. Thank you very much for watching.